Hello and welcome to the Scalextric4Schools YouTube channel. Please remember to give us a like on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So for the first part of the tutorial we're just going to be concentrating on making a CNC mould for vacuum forming, and then we'll look at other bits later on. Okay, so we've loaded the blank body from the Scalextric4Schools Facebook page in the files section. And what I'm going to do is just orientate it so I can see it from its side view, because we're going to add an image to the side that we can use to help trace around the outline of the shape. So I'm going to go up to the top and click on View, and then I've got to go down and find one of the hidden images, which is under Model Display and Images. The toolbar there across the top changes. We click on Import, and I'm going to click on the front plane, as that's the plane I want my image to go on. I've already saved the side elevation in my working directory. So side elevation, I'm going to click on that and press open. So you can just see there in the preview the car we're going to do. It's based on a Golf. And now we just need to manipulate that and move it so it's roughly the same size. So the space between the wheels is roughly the same as what we've got there on our block. So we can stretch it. I'll just make sure I'm definitely on the front view, just so I can see it there. I'm just going to move that until I'm roughly happy that I've got my two wheel arches on the image in line with the two wheel arches that are on the blank mould there. So that looks pretty good. So we'll press OK. And time we're in this view, we'll go back to the word model from the top ribbon there and click on extrude. I'm going to extrude onto this surface, press extrude onto that front plane. So we click at the extrude button, and I now need to tell it the front plane. I thought the front plane was already selected, but it doesn't appear to have been. So I'll just go and click under placement and click on the word front from my model tree. So you'll notice it changes again, the ribbon changes at the top there. And I'm now going to use the line tool and go from one edge to the other. So all I did there to zoom in was just use my scroll wheel on the mouse and rolled it forward to zoom in. Now I've decided to keep this pretty square to start off with. We'll add the curves and rounds a little bit later on. So each time I want to leave a datum point, I'm just clicking once with my mouse. So you'll see that with the little yellow flash that appears on the screen. Remembering that when I'm zooming in and out, it's just using the scroll wheel on the mouse just to zoom in and out. So we go down to that bottom point, and I'm going to connect that from one side to the other. So I just use the scroll wheel to zoom out and zoom back in again. So that gives us a completed shape. We can check that by pressing the select button. It's gone nice and yellow, so that's all good and okay. So we've got a completed shape there. So I'm next going to press OK, which is in the top right, the green tick. So we press that, and it's now gone orange, which means it's a 3D shape. So I just used the scroll wheel there, and by holding down the scroll wheel and moving the mouse, I can just orientate the model. Now under the word depth, I'm going to select the little arrow and I'm going to click on the bottom option, which is basically going to align the extrude I've just done to one of the edges we already had on our model. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click that thin edge just there. It's highlighted green. I'm going to click on that, so I now know that the width of the car is locked into that base. And again, we can just press OK now to say that we're happy with that. Now we've got that basic shape. It is quite blocky, it's got lots of angles on it. We're just going to soften these off. And this is a part where it's up to you which angles or which radiuses on your curves, I should say, you use. So we go to the round tool, which is below where it says flexible modeling. And I'm going to start clicking on some of these edges and just rounding them off. And quite often this is just done by eye, what looks right. So I can just drag the little parts there. If you wanted to zoom in, you could use the scroll wheel to zoom in. I'm just dragging that round until I'm happy with it, and then I'll move on to the next one. Now that's at 6.57. Once we're happy, we'll click off and decide what round we want to do. And again, these are personal to you. You don't have to follow the exact measurements when doing the round. So I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to leave that rounded front. Spin the mouse around using the middle mouse button or the scroll wheel so we can see the other side of the car. And I'm now going to start applying some rounds to the car to give it a bit more of a streamlined and more modern shape. So I'm going to click on this back one first of all, just on that edge, and again find the two little yellow dots, get your mouse on one of them and just drag it out. You might need to use the scroll wheel just to zoom in. So there we go, we just zoom in there so we can see them little dots, and I'll grab one of them and start pulling it out, and you can see as I pull the mouse away, the radius of that curve increases. So 8.5, we're quite happy with that. It looks okay. We could go more if we wanted to. So I'm going to stay with that radius. I'm just going to increase it up to 12. And I'm going to click on a few of the other lines. And let's just stay with that 12 radius for the time being. Again, remember, it's personal to you. If you want to change these numbers, do what works for you. It's your design, remember. So I'm just going to middle mouse button, spin it round on that scroll wheel, click the back one there, hold down the scroll wheel and move my mouse. And I'm going to click on the top by the A pillar. And then again at the bottom by the edge of the windscreen, or where the windscreen would be. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to press OK. My middle mouse button again on that scroll wheel, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a work plane at the front of the car, just so we can do that front elevation. So we click on plane, I'm going to click the right work plane, so I can do that from the model tree if you can't quite find it, and it comes up 105. I'm just going to make that 110 just to ensure I've got clearance from the front of the car. When I'm happy with that, we're going to press OK. Now what we're going to do now is repeat our first step where we added the image. So we're going to go up to View, click on Model Display, click on Images, click on Import, and we're going to select that new plane we just created, and again Working Directory, and this time the front elevation. So you can see the picture of the front of the car there. It's coming on the wrong plane, so the wrong way up, so we can just rotate that round. And this time, when we are manipulating it, we're going to click the right plane, so we can just click there on Saved Orientations and click right. Clicked front by mistake, because I'm thinking it's the front of the car, but we want to click the right because that's the plane we're looking at. And this time we want to manipulate it in a way so that half the car, or the middle of the car, is lined up with the edge of the block. We can then ensure that the roof and the wheel arches and everything are roughly in proportion. So again, scroll wheel will let you zoom in, and we're just going to manipulate that until we're happy with our positioning. So we can move it up and down until we're roughly happy with it. If it's not perfect, it's not going to matter too much. Remember, this is just as a guide to help you. It's not set in stone. We can change and make changes from that. I'm just going to stretch that up until I'm happy with it. And when I'm happy with it, just like before, we will press the green tick. So once we press the green tick, middle mouse, I'm just going to spin it round on that scroll wheel. And I'm going to show you an alternative way first, which is using the chamfer. You may wish to use this. It's entirely up to you. So I click chamfer, very similar to a round, but it's putting a chamfer on the edge. And we can drag that down and you can create a chamfer. Now you might decide that's right for your design, you might not. It's entirely up to you. In this instance, I don't think it's quite right, the look I'm looking for on this design. So I'll just press the cancel. We've previewed it, we're not happy. We've done some development as we've gone on. So we can press cancel and press yes. And this time I'll click on extrude, and that plane we created at the front where the image of the car is. So it's going to spin around there. And all I'm going to do is draw a line down on the diagonal to cut off that section. So I'm going to click on the line tool, click once where I want the line to start, go up on the diagonal, roughly the angle I want to the top of the block, along, and then just connect back to that original line, and then we'll check that that's all okay, it looks fine there. So if we then go and press the green tick, it's coloured in orange, and all I'm going to do is reverse the direction with that little arrow there and pull the whole thing back so it looks like we've added it onto the model, and then click remove material. And it's as easy as that. We've just taken off that angle now. We can middle mouse it just to check, make sure we've gone all the way through the car design, and then press OK. Every time, this is just the middle mouse there, I'm just viewing it from a different angle so we can see what we're going to do next. So we're going to round it off next, and I'm going to click on the roof, and you can see the trail in yellow, or orange, that's the parts that are all being rounded the same. I want the back edge to be rounded the same, so I can click on that as well, and it should then merge the two rounds together. And we'll just try, just see if we can get any more of a round off that. We might not be able to. We can get to 11 there, but find something that you're comfortable with and looks correct. Press the green tick. I'm now going to move around to the front of the car, and I've just got a little bit of sorting out around the front here to do, just where the angles have come in on each other. So click that one, and if it doesn't like a round, and sometimes that will happen, you won't get quite the round you want to, and you might have to go and fix something else first. So you can see there I can get a very small round. It doesn't quite like what I'm doing. So all we do is I'm going to go back a step, so I'm going to press the cancel button in this occasion. Yep, I don't want to cancel, I'll cancel that quite happily. And I'm now going to look at rounding off this edge just in there, just to soften that down. And you'll notice as I do that, that round is going to help connect the two bits together. So I've got to find the right number, so it's just in there, 7 looks about right. Now hopefully when we round this edge now, because we've done it in a different order, and it's liked it, you can see it's going all the way along the body of the car there. So I'll just pull out my markers there and just see what sort of round we get and what I'm happy with. So it might 4.5, I think 5, that'll do us. We'll tick it off there, and we've now got the rounded part of the car. Now, if you're going to see the car body and do some vacuum forming, we've only got one more step to do, because obviously things like windows and that are not going to put into our mould for the CNC car. So what we do now is we go over to the model tree, we click on the blank block, so we're highlighting everything. We click mirror and click on the front plane and press OK. And what you'll get there as I spin it around is that's your CNC block that you can then machine and make your vac formed cars from, or your vac formed car bodies from. So that's the first step complete. Okay, so for the next part of the tutorial, we're going to be concentrating on adding some details, so things like the windows and that into our car, to get this car ready to be 3D printed. So before we go any further, I'm just going to click on File, click Save As, save a copy, and I'm going to type in the file name so I know that this is my CNC car when I want to come back to it, and then press OK when that's done. So next up, I'm just going to scroll to the bottom of the model tree, right click on mirror 1 and press delete. So we're just going to get rid of that mirror. It's the last thing we're going to add on when we finished our car design. So I'm just going to get rid of that mirror, and you can see we're back to half the car. So the next up, we'll leave these images on for the moment, I think, because they're just going to help us with some of our reference points. But next up, we're going to shell it. So we're going to click on the word shell and click on the side there. So it's shelling everything inside. You can set your thickness. Around about 2 millimeters is probably good enough for what we're going to need. So now that's completely shelled the inside of the car there. Now when it comes to adding the windows and doors, you've got two options really. You can either work on that face there, where we've got the image, and you could trace the windows and doors positions exactly across, which is perfectly fine. Or what I prefer to do is actually spin it around so I can see the other side of the car and just see where them lines are for the rounds. I just prefer to work with the rounds in my own preference, but again, it's your design, it's completely up to you. So I would prefer to work from this side. I'll click on extrude and click on front. And then what I'll do is I'll just zoom in with that scroll wheel there, just scroll wheel in so we get into a decent size. Now what I want to do is click on the project button and then click on the lines I want to project onto my sketch. So the bottom one there, then just click on any other line. So I'll just click all of these lines and I'll project out that whole shape. Again, just using the zoom in with the scroll wheel. So we go down to there. We'll have to probably draw in that little piece. Zoom back out and go and do the other end. So just click these lines. Zooming in. Now occasionally when you use the project, you might end up with an issue like that where we just need to go back to the line tool and make sure that we connect the two red dots. So them two red dots just tell us that your sketch is incomplete. You've not created a solid boundary. So we can do that, zoom back out, and then I'm going to stay on the line tool and I'm going to put in my pillars for the front and back windows. So I'll just do these on a slight slant, I think, make it look a bit more aerodynamic. So one diagonally down there. Now when you use the line tool, it does leave like a tail on the end, so it keeps connecting between the dots. So I'm just going to leave that one in the middle there. Click again, so I've got my two diagonal lines. Middle mouse button, stop drawing, and go up to the delete line. So it's just up there. It's not labelled with delete, but it just sits below applications. And I'll delete that line, and then delete the line at the top and bottom. So that creates my two shapes for my side windows. Just zoom in and see that. So you can see it's on that back plane, and we'll project it through the model now. So I press OK. Everything looks good, so it goes that nice bright orange colour. And I'm just going to change it to remove material. And that will then take out the insides there. And you can now see that shell that we created previously a bit clearer there. Now again, the next bit is going to be up to you how you want to do it. I'm just going to look to round off some of these corners and just make the whole thing a little bit smoother. So I'll show you the first one and then I'll speed up the video and come back to you once we've done that. So I'm just going to click on that little edge there and just round that off, and again use the drag, the two little dots, just to drag it round and see what sort of round you can get. When we're happy with it, I'll go on and click some others and add some rounds to them windows. Now we just need to be careful sometimes when applying a round, so I'm going to apply a round to that edge there. But because I've got different geometry coming in at different angles, you'll notice it doesn't quite do what I wanted it to do. So occasionally we do have to make some sacrifices. So I'm just going to have to make that a smaller number. So I think I'm on 3 there. Take that down to 2. 2 doesn't work. So we'll try 1. Well, 2 has decided to work now. And you can just see how it's slightly different, but it'll be fine for what we're going to do. So once I'm happy with that, we'll press OK and move on. So once that's loaded up, we can press OK, and I'll just show you a little bit of what's gone on there. It's just where it's slightly intersecting entireties and intersecting geometry on that point. It's nothing too much to worry about. We could go back and fix it if we really wanted to, but it'd be fine for what you're doing. So I'm just going to move the car around now and start thinking about adding some of our other details to it. So we've got to add things like the windscreen and the back window, and then we'll remove the wheel arches and things and just finish the car off. So I'm going to click on extrude, and then we'll select that plane where we've got that sketch or the image of the front view of the car. Now your two options are to use the image there and trace out your windscreen, but mine's slightly out of line, so I'm going to click project, and as I hold down the middle mouse button and spin it around, you can see quite clearly that my windscreen is a bit higher. So I'm going to click on these lines and using the project, so 1, 2, and 3. They're just off the page at the moment, you can't quite see them. But when I go over to the left hand side, below File, the 3rd button down, you'll notice it's spun round, and then we can just use the scroll wheel to zoom in. Now them 2 red dots you've got there, all they're telling me is that the sketch is incomplete. It's not a closed boundary. So we use the line tool, click at the top. So 1 click there to start drawing. I'm just going to extend it past the line just to make sure I get everything, and back round to click, and then to get rid of the tail, it's the middle mouse button. We'll check everything's okay by pressing the select button. So it's all highlighted in yellow, so we know that's okay. I'll just spin it around so you can see what's going to happen. We're going to press OK now, and then we're going to take the whole thing through. So we're just, that little button there, little line, just click on the arrow. The mouse is on it now. It's changed direction. I'll just scroll wheel out and then take the whole thing and take that all the way through the car to get rid of the front and back, or to create a front and back window. So it goes straight the way through. So it looks like there's a big block through the middle, so we just need to now press remove material. So that's given us a front windscreen, so we can press OK. I'm not overly happy with the position of the back windscreen, so we'll do something about that next. So click OK, and now we're going to tackle this problematic back windscreen. So I'm just going to maneuver the car around, click on extrude and zoom in and click on that edge. So we go up and click on the extrude button, use my scroll wheel to zoom in and just click on that edge there, and then once we do that, there, we've got it. It's going to spin round so we're looking directly down onto that edge. Now all I'm going to do is scroll in, find that corner, so I have to tilt it slightly using the middle mouse button. Might need to scroll in a bit more as well, so just position it through, scroll in so you can just see that edge there, and once again we use the project tool, so we just know we're definitely getting on that edge there. So we'll click on that project tool now. I'll go back to my sketch view, so I'm looking directly on top of it again. That will just make things a bit easy for us. So it's just there, the 3rd button down below File. I'll probably need to scroll out a little bit just so you can see that there. And all I'm going to do is use the line tool to connect both of them points up. So we'll go from the top there, so we click there. Now I have made a little mistake here. You'll see it in a moment. My model actually snapped to the grid, or to another point, rather than the end of that line. So we go down, connect it all up. I'm about to think everything looks okay there, but when I go to press the tick, we've got that red message. So we'll press no, we don't want to exit the sketcher, we want to go back and fix it. So I'll click on no there. I'm going to scroll in and see what's going on, and what I probably need to do is just go and delete that line. So click on the delete one, it's just there, delete that bit of line. So I'll delete both parts of that line, and all I'm going to do is put a new line in going from one side to the other, so I know there's no joints or no little gaps that I might have missed, and we could be talking fractions of a millimetre at this point. So click in there to stop the line drawing. Remember, it's that middle mouse button that gets rid of that. I'll check it this time, so still see it showing up with a slight error, so I'll just zoom in this time, and you'll just notice there's a slight gap, probably fractions of a millimetre. So all I do is I just connect them 2 points up with the line tool. So from one, click, join up the other one, click, and we middle mouse button to stop the line. I can then, when I'm happy, this time it will go yellow. I'll press the green tick, and then I'm just going to decide, so I'll spin it round, how low do I want my boot to go. So again, the arrow changes direction, and we press remove material so you can see what's going on there, and I'm just going to drag that up so it's roughly in line with that curve that's coming in from the right hand side there. So up, 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 so we get to about there. That looks about right. When I'm happy with it, I'll press the green tick, and we'll move on to the final part of the tutorial, which is going to be looking at the wheel arches and cutting them out. So we press OK now, and we'll go on to the next stage. So again, it's the middle mouse button there, spins it round. We can now see that looks a lot better. I'm going to put a couple of rounds in just to soften that edge off and just make it a little bit more nicer. So we click on the round there. I'm going to make sure I get right into that corner, so the scroll wheel in to zoom in. I'll click on that first one up there, sort of one. I probably want more than a 1mm round on it, so I can drag it round and see what it looks like. Just try and get hold of it. If it does do that, don't worry, just go and press the undo key. Just means you've selected the wrong thing. Press the undo key, and we'll go a little bit more, so I'll just see what I'm doing. Make sure I pick up one of them points, and I'll just drag that down and put in that larger round there. So now we've got hold of that. You can see it's rounding it off. It's growing as I'm pulling it away, and when I'm happy with it, I'll zoom out. So that looks quite nice. We'll try the same round in the bottom corner there. So 8 doesn't work this time. So what I can do is this time reduce the amount. So I can bring it down until we get something that we're happy with. So when we're happy, we press the tick, and we've got that same round there. Now you can spend a lot longer doing rounds and working on the overall appearance of the car. Again, this is just a quick tutorial just to get you started and show you some of the basics when modelling the Scalextric's car. So I've just spun the car around using my middle mouse button, so I'm now looking at the side. I'm going to press extrude. We're going to click on the wheel arches there, but we can do it better doing it on the front, because if you notice them wheel arches, they are slightly on an angle, so the projection would go through at an angle. Now again, it's that favourite button we've been using a lot today. We're going to use that project tool, and I'm going to project the line for the inner part of the wheel arch. So we'll go up to project. You could sit there and work out the circle and things, but we've got the tool there. It's going to make your life a lot easier. So I'll click on project, click the inner of the two radiuses. So I've got to do both sides because there's a split line down the middle there, and we do the ones going down the sides to start us off. So this is going to remove the internal part of the wheels. So we'll click in there, both on this side. So we're creating like two upside down U's. Now the other thing I'm going to do, once I finish these, I'm going to go to the rectangle tool, and I just want to draw a line along the base of the car there, because I don't want that to leave this bit that's stuck behind there anywhere. So we're going to go to rectangle. I'm going to click it or snap it to the bottom edge there and start drawing from there. So we're using the center rectangle tool, draw it all the way across both of them, click to finish. And what we'll do is we'll use the delete button. So it's the one below applications. So my mouse is just going up to it now. You'll see the yellow flash when I click on it. So it's on there. We're then going to delete these lines. So 1, 2, 4 on each wheel arch, 3, and then the fourth one. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing on the other wheel arch. So scroll out, move your mouse over, scroll back in to zoom in. This time it'll only be 3 because we haven't got that split line down it. So 1, 2, and 3. Again, everything should now be good. You can see where that is on that face. So we're going to pull it through and extrude everything across. So everything should be good. I'm going to press OK. It's projected through. And again, all I've got to do now is remove the material. And then press OK. Now in this tutorial, I'm not going to cut out the floor. I'm going to leave that for you. Depending on your chassis and your chassis design, you might want to make different modifications to the base of the car if you're deciding to 3D print it. So next up, we're going to repeat a step from earlier in the video where we're now going to mirror the half of that body. So bodies is selected on the side there. So I'm just middle mousing it so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to click on the very top one. So I've got bodies one highlighted, but you need to go right to the top. So you're mirroring everything. So I'm just going to pull my slide bar up to where it says blank body parts. Click that, the whole thing's now highlighted. You'll see the mirror now appears. I can click on that, and I'm going to click on the front plane there. So highlighted, you get the preview. We're going to press OK. And we've got the basic shape of the car created. Now remember, this tutorial is just to give you a basic introduction. You've got to cut out the base for your own chassis, depending on which chassis you decide to use. They will be slightly different. And then you can spend some time thinking about adding rounds to the wheel arches to make them a bit more like a body kit on it. You can also think about then adding more detail like your lights and everything else. So, one last thing to do, I think, and that's just click on View, and we're going to remove them sketches. So we go to Model Display, Images. Now you'll notice it says Images there. So if I click the little arrow below it, it shows me both of the images. Now I don't know why. I would always thought that you'd put them to 0% to get rid of them, but a little quirk, we have to put them both to 100%. So that will take one away. And then we can go and click on Images again. Select the front elevation this time. Change the light bulb to 100%. And then we press OK. So that will give you the basics of a car there. You can now just follow it, adding extrudes, rounds, and start to personalise that. You can put a front grille on it, some headlights. Like we've already said, you could flare the wheel arches out to give it that body kit look. It's really up to you now how you want to personalise the car to make it your own. So thanks for watching. Hope you found this tutorial useful and just giving you a basic start to designing your own Scalextric car as part of the Scalextric4Schools challenge. Now please remember to have a look on the Facebook page if you're a member of staff or a teacher, and join us on there for more tutorials, videos, helpful hints and tips. Hopefully you've already liked and subscribed to this video on YouTube, but don't forget we're also on Twitter and Instagram as Scalextric4Schools. Until next time, thanks again for watching.